What would you say if a cop turned on the body cam and started building a case against you before you even finished your first sentence? Your biggest mistake will probably happen in the next 5 seconds. And once you say the wrong thing, that recording can follow you all the way into court. Hit subscribe right now because what I'm about to show you could save your words from becoming evidence against you. Like this video too, because if you ever need this during a real stop, you want this easy to find fast. Here's the reality. The moment you see that camera rolling, you are not in a normal conversation, you are in an evidence gathering moment, and your own mouth can do more damage to you than anything in your car. I've analyzed over 200 body cam videos, and the pattern is always the same. Drivers think they can talk their way out of trouble. Then they admit where they were, what they drank, why they look nervous, whose bag that is, or why they reached under the seat. In this video, you're going to learn the first sentence you should use before you answer anything serious, the line that shuts down consent searches, the question that tells you whether the stop is actually over, and the court cases that back it all up. This comes straight from Supreme Court rulings, and if you remember just a few lines, you can protect yourself in a way most drivers never do. Now let's talk about why this matters so much to you. Most people have no idea that cops are trained to ask easy questions first. Where are you coming from? Where are you headed? Is this your car? Have you had anything to drink? You hear those and think they're casual. They are not casual. They are designed to lock you into a story. If your story changes later, they call it a lie. If you sound nervous, they call it suspicious. If you joke, they call it evasive. If you stay quiet without saying why, they can keep talking and keep waiting for you to crack. That is why your first words matter so much. You need to stop the free information before it starts. You need to give only what the law requires and nothing extra. The first thing you do is make your silence loud and clear. You do not sit there hoping silence alone will protect you. Let me show you exactly what to say. You look at the officer and say this. Officer, I am invoking my right to remain silent. I want a lawyer. I will provide my documents, but I am not answering questions. Word for word. Memorize that line. Why does that work for you? Because silence by itself is not always enough. That sounds crazy, but that is the law. In Burgheis v. Tompkins, the Supreme Court said, you must clearly say you are using your right to remain silent. Just sitting there quiet is not always enough to stop the damage. In Salinas v. Texas, the court made it even worse for regular people. If you stay silent before arrest without clearly saying you are using your right, that silence may not protect you the way you think it will. Here's the reality. You have to speak one short sentence so you can stop speaking safely after that. This is 100% legal. You are not fighting. You are not resisting. You are not being rude. You are using a right that exists for one reason, because people talk themselves into charges every single day. Defense attorneys use this exact line in court because it shows you were not trying to play games. You were drawing a clear line. Bad way. Most drivers say, I only had one drink, or I'm just coming from my friend's house, or why are you asking me that? Then their own answers become evidence, and every small detail gets twisted against them. Good way. Smart drivers say, Officer, I am invoking my right to remain silent. I want a lawyer. I will provide my documents, but I am not answering questions. Then the officer has a lot less to use, and your lawyer has a much stronger defense later. Now, I need to be real with you. This does not mean you refuse everything. If the officer lawfully asks for your license, registration, and insurance, you give them. If your state requires your name during a lawful stop, you give your name. But you do not start explaining your whole life story. You do not try to sound innocent. Innocent people talk themselves into trouble all the time. Former police officers have confirmed this works because when you stop volunteering details, the fishing trip gets much harder. Have you ever been hit with one of those just making conversation questions during a stop? Drop a comment below and tell me which question you hear the most. Your next move is to separate what you must do from what you do not have to do. That one skill changes everything for you. Here's exactly what you say when the officer starts pushing for chatter. I'll provide my license, registration, and insurance, but I'm not answering questions. That sentence is clean, it is calm, and it keeps you from sounding confused. Here's the trick they don't want you knowing. A lot of roadside cases are built from little harmless-looking answers. The officer asks where you were. You answer. Then the officer asks who you were with. You answer again. Then it turns into why your eyes look red, why your hands are shaking, why there's fast food in the passenger seat, why there are 2 phones on the console, why the story from your passenger is a little different. Each answer gives them a new door to open on you. If you keep talking, you keep handing them tools. That is why this second line matters so much for you. It keeps you compliant without being chatty. It shows you know the difference between lawful commands and casual questions. Hibel v. 6th Judicial District Court is a reminder that in some places police can require your name during a lawful stop. Fine. Give your name if the law requires it, but your name is not your whole night. Your name is not where you were. Your name is not whether you had just one beer. Legal experts agree this is your strongest protection when an officer is trying to turn small talk into probable cause, which means a legal reason to search or arrest. Bad way. Most drivers say, "Sure, no problem. I was at my cousin's place, then the gas station, then I picked him up and I'm heading home." Then the officer has a timeline, details to test, and more reasons to keep digging. Good way. Smart drivers say, "I'll provide my license, registration, and insurance, but I'm not answering questions." Then the officer gets what the stop requires, but not the extra story that creates suspicion. And watch what happens when you use that line. The whole tone changes. The stop stops feeling like an interview because you refuse to turn it into one. This is 100% legal, and it keeps you from doing the thing that hurts most drivers the fastest. Now let's hit the line that can save your car, your bag, and your whole day. If the officer asks to look inside, asks to take a quick peek, asks to search your trunk, or asks if you mind if a dog walks around the car, you say this: "Officer, I do not consent to any searches." Short, clear, calm. Say it the same way every time. Do not add a speech after that. Do not say, "I mean I don't have anything, but..." Do not say only if you make it quick. Do not try to sound helpful. Just use the line. "Officer, I do not consent to any searches." Word for word. Memorize that line too. Why does this help you so much? Because once you consent, you make the government's job way easier. In Schneckloth v. Bustamante, the Supreme Court said a consent search can still count as valid even if police never told you that you could refuse. Read that again in plain English. They do not have to remind you of your right to say no. That means your protection is not their warning. Your protection is your refusal. If you do not clearly refuse, you may hand them the search on a silver platter. Bad way. Most drivers say, "I guess that's fine, I've got nothing to hide." Then the search starts, the body cam catches the consent, and it gets way harder to fight later. Good way. Smart drivers say, "Officer, I do not consent to any searches." Then if a search happens anyway, your lawyer can attack the reason for it, because you did not give it away for free. Watch what happens in body cam videos when a driver refuses consent calmly. The officer often has to change direction. Maybe the stop ends. Maybe the officer tries a new angle. Maybe they call for backup. But your refusal matters because it keeps your rights alive. And let me be very clear with you. If the officer searches anyway, you do not physically resist. You do not pull away. You do not block the search with your body. You keep saying, "I do not consent," and you let the legal fight happen later. That is how smart people protect themselves. 90% of drivers don't know what's coming next. Stay with me because this next move is what tells you whether the stop is still legal or if the officer is just trying to stretch time until you slip. Once the traffic business should be done, you need to test the moment. You need to find out if you are still being legally held or if the stop is over and the officer is just trying to keep you talking. Listen closely because this is critical. You ask one calm question. "Officer, am I being detained or am I free to leave?" Those exact words. No extra attitude, no smart tone, just clear words. That question matters for you because traffic stops are supposed to stay tied to the reason for the stop. In Rodriguez versus United States, the Supreme Court said police cannot drag out a traffic stop longer than needed just to go investigate other crimes unless they have a real legal reason. In plain English, they do not get endless free time with you. They get the time needed for the traffic mission, ticket, warning, license check, registration check. Then you should be on your way unless something else legally changes the picture. There is one more part you need to understand. If the officer orders you out of the car, you comply. Do not argue that part on the roadside. In Pennsylvania versus Mims, the Supreme Court said an officer can order a driver out during a lawful traffic stop. So if you hear, "Step out of the vehicle," you step out, then you keep your mouth shut and go back to your lines. "I am invoking my right to remain silent. I do not consent to any searches. Am I being detained or am I free to leave?" That sequence protects you far better than roadside debating ever will. Bad way. Most drivers say, "Why do I have to get out?" Or, "I'm not stepping out unless you tell me why." Then the stop gets more heated, and now you risk extra charges that had nothing to do with the first reason for the stop. Good way. Smart drivers step out if ordered, keep their hands visible, and say, "Officer, am I being detained or am I free to leave?" Then they stay calm, force clarity, and avoid making the stop worse. This comes straight from Supreme Court rulings. You do not win by acting tough. You win by knowing exactly when to speak, exactly what to say, and exactly when to stop talking. Let me put the legal picture together for you in plain English. Berghus versus Tompkins means you have to clearly say you are using your right to remain silent. Silence alone can fail you. Salinas v. Texas means if police are talking to you before arrest and before warnings, your quiet pause by itself may not protect you. You still need to speak up and invoke the right. Schneckloth v. Bustamante means if you say yes to a search, police do not have to prove they told you that you could say no. That is why your refusal matters so much. Rodriguez v. United States means police cannot keep your traffic stop going forever just to fish for more evidence without a real reason. And Pennsylvania v. Mims means if you are lawfully stopped, you can be ordered out of the car, so do not turn that into a fight you will lose on the spot. Here's the reality. These cases all point to the same lesson for you. Be respectful. Be clear. Do not consent. Do not explain. Do not guess. Do not fill silence with words you can never take back. Now let me show you exactly how this plays out in real life. You get pulled over at night. Your heart is racing. The officer walks up. The body cam is on. The officer says, "Where are you coming from tonight?" Most drivers go wrong right there. They start talking. "I'm coming from my friend's place." Then the officer asks where your friend lives, then how long you were there, then whether you had anything to drink, then whether this is your backpack in the back seat, then whether you mind if they take a quick look. That driver thinks they are being helpful, but now their own words built the whole stop. Here is the right way for you. You keep your hands where they can be seen. You get your documents ready when asked. You stay calm. The officer asks, "Where are you coming from tonight?" You say, "Officer, I am invoking my right to remain silent. I want a lawyer. I will provide my documents, but I am not answering questions." The officer asks again in a different way. You repeat it. The officer says, "You got anything illegal in the car?" You say, "Officer, I do not consent to any searches." If the officer tells you to step out, you step out. No debate, no speech. Then when the traffic business should be done, you ask, "Officer, am I being detained or am I free to leave?" That is it. That is the whole play. And watch what happens. On the wrong path, your own voice becomes the evidence. On the right path, the officer has to work with what they already have, not the extra details you donated. That one change can be the difference between a quick warning and a nightmare case file built out of your own mouth. Next week, I'm revealing what to say when cops claim they smell weed coming from your car. Subscribe right now because that one gets people searched and arrested every single day. And if you miss it, you'll miss one of the biggest roadside traps there is. So burn these lines into your memory right now. First, if the camera is rolling and questions start, you clearly invoke your right to remain silent and ask for a lawyer. Second, you give the documents the law requires, but you do not turn the stop into a chat session. Third, if they want to search, you say you do not consent. Fourth, if the stop should be over, you ask whether you are being detained or free to leave. Those few lines give you something most drivers never have in the moment. Control, hit subscribe so you catch that weed smell video next week. Smash, like if this script just gave you a real plan for your next stop. And drop a comment telling me which exact line you're going to memorize first. Stay safe out there.